today, Scientific Eye is all about plants, and I'm on my way to a top location. Palm trees, tropical temperatures, exotic fruits. So what am I doing dressed like this in Cornwall? The place I'm visiting is being built in a disused clay pit at a cost of £80 million. Where am I? This is the Eden Project, and it's the biggest greenhouse in the world. It might look like a cluster of gigantic soap bubbles, but this spectacular construction will be home to thousands of plant species. They call these massive domes biomes, and inside, different climates from around the globe are being recreated. That one over there is a warm temperate biome. It'll be like the Mediterranean. And this one here is the humid tropics biome, where they're beginning to plant a rainforest. Inside, it's a truly tropical temperature. The plants have been grown all over the world, in nurseries, botanical gardens and universities. To find out more, I met up with plant expert Joe Redman. Joe, this place is brilliant. How did you first get into plants?
Strangely enough, because they can't move. And if we couldn't move, how could we eat? How could we drink? How would we run away if something was chasing us? And how would we protect ourselves from the searing sun?
That made you want to know more.
Absolutely.
When's it going to be finished?
March 2001 to be open to the public. We've been planting for 2 months, and there'll be a lot more to see by March.
Why is the Eden Project going to so much trouble? I mean, why build your own rainforest?
We're building rainforest and also lots of other natural habitats from around the world, and we're looking at all the useful plants that there are in them. Plants that we use for food, plants that we use for clothes, plants we use for everything.
To show people how we need plants.
Yep.
As Joe showed me around, I began to realise just how much we rely on plants.
Loads of stuff you find in the supermarket, you'll find in here. Cup of coffee, coffee bean on the coffee plant, the red ones are the ripe ones. Margarine and soap come from the fruits of this one, oil palm.
Brilliant.
And here's a cocoa tree, complete with cocoa pod. And from this we make chocolate, and a bit more surprisingly, face cream. In the rainforest they use this one, Bixa, as a red hair dye.
Really?
Yeah, we use it to colour cheese and make sweets red as well.
And I discovered loads more useful plants at the nursery, where hundreds are waiting to be planted when the biomes are ready. This is Jules, and she's going to give us a tour.
The groundnut plant, which produces monkey nuts, which actually grow under the soil. Here we have a rubber tree, which is used to produce rubber, and it actually comes from the sap of the plant. This tropical tree is used for jam making in Brazil. A hardwood called mahogany, which is used for furniture making. The pineapple plant, which is actually a bromeliad and grows on the jungle floor. And here we have the cotton hibiscus, and as you can see, the cotton fibres wrap around the seeds. These pods are used to flavour vanilla ice cream. This plant contains compounds which can cure childhood leukemia.
There you go. Thanks, Jules. We rely on plants more than you might think, for raw materials, for food, even fuel. How many plants have you used today? What would a world without plants be like?
Oh, la 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 la. Oh.
Without plants, there wouldn't even be people. And the reason there'd be no people is because plants supply our planet with food and oxygen. If you look closely at a plant that lives in water, you can see tiny bubbles of gas escaping from the stem. But how can we be sure it's oxygen? With a bit of patience, you can collect enough gas to test it. A glowing splint relights. It must be oxygen. Without plants, humans and animals wouldn't survive. Not only do we use the oxygen they produce, we also use the plants themselves, which leaves us with two big questions to answer. What do plants need to grow? And how do they produce the vital gas that keeps us alive? Take these chives. How did they get to the salad bowl? This pot came from a supermarket shelf. But to supply a whole chain of supermarkets, these plants need to be grown on a big scale, at a herb factory. Spring and summer months are the best time of year for growth, but commercial plant growers need to cultivate plants economically all year round. Patrick Bastow is the boss at this company. How do you think he encourages the herbs to grow?
For growth, we know that plants need several things: light, water, carbon dioxide and heat. To produce high quality plants all year round, we need to keep the glasshouse temperature above 19 degrees C, and to do that we use hot water pipes. However, we can't let the glasshouse temperature get too high, so in the summer we use vents and fans to keep the glasshouse cool. This is the boiler that keeps the place warm. It also produces carbon dioxide, which we pump straight into the glasshouse. The normal level of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is 400 parts per million. In this glasshouse, we can boost the level up to 1,200 parts per million. Today, there's plenty of sunshine, but in the middle of winter, we need to use hundreds of sodium lamps to keep the glasshouse light. Without water, you can't grow plants, so we collect the water off the glasshouse roof and we stick it in the reservoir.
The two main ingredients for plant growth are carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide and water chemically combine to become the actual stuff the plants are made from. This chemical reaction is called photosynthesis, and the leaf is where photosynthesis takes place. Chop the leaf in half, and a magnified view means you can see the individual cells inside. The cells near the top are called palisade cells, and inside these cells are full of green blobs called chloroplasts. Chloroplasts contain a green pigment called chlorophyll, which gives the plant its colour. But more importantly, chlorophyll captures energy from the sun. Carbon dioxide enters the leaf through holes in the lower surface, called stomata. Once inside, the carbon dioxide gets into the cells. But this is only half the story.
For healthy plants, you need healthy roots. They anchor the plant in the soil as well as take up water.
This is speeded up footage of a root growing in the ground. The cells on plant roots grow into long hairs, which stick out into the soil, giving the plant a big surface area for soaking up water. Water travels up the stem to the leaves in tubes called xylem. Once in the leaf, the water passes into the cells and enters the chloroplasts. Here it meets the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide and water react to form glucose and oxygen. Light provides the energy for this reaction. Chlorophyll is needed for the carbon dioxide and water to combine. Plants may not look like they're doing much, but all of these are busy photosynthesizing. It's an invisible process. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. We now understand how photosynthesis works, but it took scientists a long time to figure it out. Many hundreds of years ago, the ancient Greeks thought that plants got their nourishment from eating soil. It wasn't until the middle of the 17th century that a Belgian, Jan Baptiste van Helmont, set out to prove the Greeks wrong.
They're so heavy.
He took a big pot and put 91 kilograms of dried earth in it and planted a young willow tree that weighed 2.3 kilograms. Then all he did was water it for 5 years.
Water. That's good.
The tree gained 75 kilograms, but the weight of the soil hardly changed at all. So as Mr. Van Helmont said at the time,
75 kilograms of wood, bark and roots arose out of water only.
He was partly right, they need water. But Swiss scientist Senebier later found out that they also need carbon dioxide. Another discovery came from Englishman Joseph Priestley. Consider this. Put a mouse in a sealed jar, and what happens? Yep, it dies. Joseph Priestley discovered in 1780, put a plant in there with it. And the mouse survives.
Was the first demonstration that plants produce what you now know to be oxygen.
But, Mr. Priestley, your demonstration didn't work when it was dark, did it?
Oh, no!
It took a Dutchman, Jan Ingenhousz, to realise that plants only produce oxygen when there's light. And if you're a mouse in a bell jar...
Hey, who turned the lights out?
That's a very important discovery, I can tell you.
You are so right. No animals were hurt in the making of this film.
Photosynthesis keeps us alive and makes our planet different to all the others in the solar system. It's amazing if you really think about it. Carbon dioxide, a colourless gas, and water, in the presence of light and the chlorophyll found in green plants, produces glucose, a type of sugar, and oxygen. The startling fact is that the mass of any plant is made up of just carbon dioxide and water. Unlike us, plants make all their own food. Can you imagine that, never having to eat again? But what happens to the glucose once it's produced? Where does it end up? some of the glucose produced ends up in the fruit of a plant. You can test for the presence of glucose using a blue solution called Benedict's reagent. All you have to do is add a few drops of the Benedict's solution to the plant sample, mix it around and bring it to the boil. If glucose is present, you get an orange precipitate, evidence that the fruit of a plant stores glucose. Glucose molecules can be used to make starch, a much bigger molecule. Starch is stored in the leaf. The test for starch involves another colour change, so first you need to get rid of its green colour. Immerse the leaf in ethanol, warm it up in a flask of hot water, and the green chlorophyll is extracted. Next, add some drops of iodine solution to the leaf. If it contains starch, the reddish iodine on the leaf will turn a deep blue, almost black colour. Starch and glucose are sources of energy for the plant. Glucose is also converted into cellulose, a fibrous material that the plant uses to build cell walls. Plants use the glucose they produce to grow, so most plants are adapted to make as much glucose as possible. There's always a good supply of carbon dioxide from the air, but the amount of light and water can be limited. How might a plant cope if it lives somewhere very dry, or in a place where there isn't much light? The shape and size of a plant gives you clues about the environment it grows in. What if the amount of light is limited?
Deep on the rainforest floor there's not much light, so the leaves arrange themselves in a whirl to grab any bit they can. You can tell these leaves live in dark, gloomy places, big loads of chlorophyll to suck in any light they can. More clues here. Small leaves, much paler green. These live where there's bucket loads of light.
In dry places, plants have found ways of limiting the water lost through leaves.
To help prevent water loss, this leaf's got a furry surface, which traps the moisture in the hairs. You can tell this plant comes from a dry place because it's evolved not to have leaves at all. It stores water in its thick, succulent stems. Plants in dry places have very deep roots. You can tell this one's from a wet place because the roots are on the surface because the air's full of moisture.
We rely on plants and plants rely on us. The waste product that we breathe out is carbon dioxide, vital to plants. The waste product that plants produce is oxygen, vital to us. So if plants are so important, what will happen if we don't take more care of them?